All right, with us now, Pete Seat, former White House spokesperson for President George W. Bush, and Democratic strategist Julia Rajinski. I want to read a couple editorials that caught my attention from either the right or the center right on this subject. This is from the Free Press, Barry Weiss's outlet. And that editorial is, "It's true Kimmel's brand of resistance-era humor has aged like milk. His falsehood about Kirk's alleged killer insults the intelligence of his audience, but when a network drops high-profile talent hours after the FCC chair makes a barely veiled threat, then it's no longer just a business decision, it's government coercion. It is now Trump administration policy to punish broadcasters. Is it now Trump administration policy to punish broadcasters for comedy that doesn't conform to its politics? That's censorship." So that's from the Free Press. The Wall Street Journal says the squeeze on Disney looks to be a case of cancel culture on the right. Mr. Kimmel's comments Monday associating Charlie Kirk's killer with the MAGA gang were false, callous, and stupid, but they weren't inciting violence. And in a free society, they shouldn't be cause for the government to push someone off the airwaves. Julie.
Well, I'm a free speech absolutist, so I think Jimmy Kimmel should be able to say whatever he wants to say, and the market can decide whether it wants Jimmy Kimmel to say it or not. In other words, if Jimmy Kimmel's ratings are awful, then Disney has every right to cancel him, but that's not why they got rid of him. They got rid of him because Donald Trump made it clear he doesn't like to be made fun of, as he said consistently, both before and after this. Look, I'll just caution my friends on the right who are gloating over this. It's a round world, my friends, and if you think this is how you're going to proceed, one day there's going to be a Democrat who's going to put somebody in charge of the FCC, and that person is going to make a call to Lachlan Murdoch, and he's going to say, hey, if you want your station groups to have any kind of access to Fox on broadcast, maybe get rid of Greg Gutfeld over on Fox News, right? And that comedy show. That's not a road anyone here wants to go down. I feel that Greg Gutfeld has the right to say the stupid stuff he says, and Jimmy Kimmel has the right to say the stuff that he says. And the bottom line is, if that's not how it's going to be, let's get ready for retribution after retribution after retribution, because this is a Pandora's box you're opening up that you don't want to open up.
Look, they're opening it out in the open, too, to use the word open a whole bunch of times here. You have Brendan Carr talking about him wanting to do this. You have the President of the United States, Pete, on Air Force One yesterday saying that maybe licenses should be pulled for networks that broadcast things that are critical of him. Is this the right place for the government to be putting its efforts?
I'm not going to sugarcoat this, John. I'm troubled by the comments that the FCC chairman has been making as it relates to the president. He has been known to wear his emotions on his sleeves, and he doesn't hold back. Whatever is in his head comes out of his mouth, and he does not have a great relationship, to put it mildly, with the media. Most presidents don't. They don't like the coverage that they get across the various networks. But I think a couple of points are important here. One, ABC and Disney have a history of firing. In the case of Jimmy Kimmel, they have only suspended him thus far, but of firing talent. They did it with Roseanne over a tweet. They did it with an actress on The Mandalorian over social media posts. There was also an instance with Nick Cannon getting canned by Viacom CBS for anti-Semitic comments that he made on his podcast, which was not owned or operated by Viacom and CBS. So this is not unheard of. You do have the right to free speech, but employers also have the right to suspend or fire talent if they find some of that speech to be objectionable. The second point, very quickly, is this timeline. Even CNN's own reporting states that ABC had a conversation during this uproar with Jimmy Kimmel, and they came to the conclusion that he was too hot. He was ready to go on the show Wednesday night and give a monologue that would do even more damage to him. And they made this decision, I think, to protect Jimmy Kimmel from himself.
Again, but if we're talking the timeline, it was still after Brendan Carr made the threat of pulling licenses from affiliates in Disney with the Nexstar Tegna merger in front of him, and with ESPN needing football rights. So again, the timeline here and the government action is what we have the editorials here talking about. I want to shift gears to Democratic politics if I can, because Julie, I got you right here with me.
I'm right here.
Axios this morning reporting, Alex Thompson over at Axios reporting that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is making moves for 2028. This is the quote. Ocasio-Cortez and her team are positioning her to run for president or the U.S. Senate in 2028. That's according to people familiar with her operation. And then when Alex goes on to write, it seems to actually focus more on the Senate than a presidential run. But running for the Senate would be taking on Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, primarying potentially Chuck Schumer, or trying to get him to muscle him out before he runs. What do you think of that?
I think she'd win. I think she'd win in a landslide. And I say that as a New York Democratic voter because Chuck Schumer has proven himself not up to the task and the moment that we're living in. I mean, Chuck Schumer, I don't know what he's doing. He's sending thoughts and prayers our way, I guess, but I don't see Chuck Schumer taking any kind of affirmative action to fight back against this assault on everything that Democrats stand for, whether it's, protecting democracy, whether it is supporting a continuing resolution that funded a lot of Donald Trump's priorities last time around, the fact that he still hasn't said whether he's going to filibuster this or what he's going to do with it. I mean, Chuck Schumer was a great senator in the 90s, but we're living in a very different world. AOC may not be my cup of tea when it comes to policy a lot of times, but I think her approach is very much of the moment. And I think even Democrats who don't necessarily agree with her on policy want a fighter, and they're not seeing Chuck Schumer be that fighter today. I say that with a heavy heart. I think he's been a great senator, but I also think he's just not up for the moment right now.
Quick last word, Pete.
I agree. Chuck Schumer is not up to the task. Look, New York City is about to poise to elect socialist Zohran Mamdani, so why not AOC for the Senate?
All right, Pete, Julie Brzezinski, thanks so much for coming on, and I appreciate the open discussion here.